This is the first in a series of weekly videos called Tyneside Crack. And in this video I'm going to take an in-depth look at the analysis of the match we had at the weekend against Brentford. And I'm going to reveal one or two things that you might not have picked up on. I'm also going to ask the question of whether or not Maximin is a help or a hindrance to the team. And I'm also going to be looking at the future for the next week, with Eddie Howe being off with COVID and what that means for the training, plus 2 or 3 other bits and pieces coming up. Hello, my name's Eddie H. Welcome to the channel Tyneside Life. And if you're new here and you like my content, don't forget to hit the subscribe button so you get notified every time I release a new video. But also it helps spread the word. This morning I'm shooting this video in a cafe called Blake's, which is on Dean Street in Newcastle, right next to the Theatre Royal. And if you're not familiar with the area, Dean Street of Newcastle is commonly known as Golden Mile. So on this particular street, it's great for nightlife. It's on the more expensive upper end of the market. There's some really nice bars and restaurants on this street. So if you come to the area, don't forget to check it out. In Blake's, I love coming to this particular cafe when I can. It's kind of a mix between an American diner, but all kind of oldie-worldy, like a rustic feel about it. So first of all, I'd just like to give like a quick analysis and kind of a review and opinion on the match on Saturday against Brentford, which was a fascinating match. So in broad terms, Eddie Howe went with a 3-4-3, quite attacking-minded formation, which I was really pleased with. And in a nutshell, I think by and large, apart from some defensive errors, it worked. We were a completely different team to how we've looked all season. We were pressing high up the pitch. We were a team that was trying to keep possession. We were on the front foot. We were closing down. We were more aggressive. So a lot of positives from that respect. And of course, we scored 3 goals. So going forward, this is probably going to be a team that is going to score lots of goals. On more of the downside is, I don't think I'm giving any government secrets away here, but defensively we were very poor. And I think that's a reflection of probably the quality of the players we have trying to operate in this new system. And of course it's early days for Eddie Howe trying to get his new message across. But Jacob Murphy for me and Matt Ritchie, they're both very similar players on different sides of the pitch. And in my opinion, as attacking wingers, they're high quality, they're Premier League players for me. When you put them in a wing-back role with defensive responsibilities, for me, they turn into championship players, and I think that you could tell during that game because there was lots of gaps on either side, but especially on the left with Matt Ritchie's side. Really had a poor first half for me. So when I was doing my research for this particular video, and I looked back at the match and on TV, and I watched Match of the Day, and I listened to Alan Shearer's summary and synopsis of our performance, and I picked up on something Alan Shearer said which didn't fit. There was no context to what he said, and he mentioned another mistake by Lascelles. Now before that he hadn't mentioned Lascelles in particular, and I was quite curious as to why he said that. So that caused me to drill a little bit deeper and really analyse the 3 goals that we conceded, and this is what I found. So straight after we scored a goal, obviously Ivan Toney got an equaliser about 60 seconds later. But if you watch that very brief build-up, when the Brentford hoofed the ball up towards the Newcastle box, Lascelles made a mistake. His positioning was out, and that allowed Ivan Toney to out-jump Lascelles and nod it on for another Brentford player. And that was poor defending by Lascelles. That's not like him usually, but that allowed the breakaway. And of course, Ivan Toney broke through on the right-hand side of the box and slid the ball into the bottom corner. And Darlow, I mean, that was just awful goalkeeping. So it was a catalogue of little errors by Lascelles. And when I looked at it and went back to what Alan Shearer said, he'd actually ringed Lascelles in green, but never mentioned him at all in the build-up for that Brentford goal. But you could see that Lascelles made a boob, which allowed Toney to break through and score that goal with a horrendous mistake by Darlow. Then we had the disallowed goal. Once you look back at that, that was a catalogue of errors again, starting with Lascelles, who played a sloppy ball to Willock, who dilly-dallied on the ball for a second or two, and he was easily dispossessed. Then Lascelles made another mistake with a clumsy slide tackle that led to nothing. And of course, Brentford broke through again, and Ivan Toney scored, but of course it was disallowed for offside. So we were really quite lucky there, but Lascelles and Willock both contributed to the downfall of that, leading to that particular disallowed goal. Now, Brentford's second goal, this is really quite an interesting set of circumstances, because at first glance, it looks entirely like Jacob Murphy left Henry behind him, created the space for Brentford to score. So it looks like, at first glance, Murphy made a bit of a horrendous mistake. But when you analyse the build-up to that goal, certainly the 3 or 4, maybe 5 seconds before that, you'll see a different picture emerges, and again it involves Willock. About 30 yards out, Willock loses the ball to Toney, who then plays it to another player, and then Toney dashes into the box. But you'll notice that Willock only jogs behind him, and within a couple of seconds he's about 5 metres behind him. Then of course there's another mistake by Ritchie, because he didn't close the winger down, who was able to get the cross in. But if you watch, in that split second, Jacob Murphy had to make a decision, because he'll have known Rico Henry was behind him. But because Toney had been allowed to run in the box and wasn't tracked by Willock, we then had, including Rico, 4 Brentford attackers against 3 Newcastle defenders in and around the 6-yard box. So in that split second where the ball come in for the cross, you can see Murphy made a split-second decision to run forward to create 3 defensive players against the 3 attackers who were in that position, but left Henry behind him. And of course the ball went over his head and Henry scored the goal. Now if Jacob Murphy had have stayed back to mark Henry, that would have left 3 Brentford attackers against 2 Newcastle defenders, and they could have scored from there. And that would have asked some questions as well. So I'm not suggesting Murphy's entirely blameless. There might have been some communication breakdown going on. But what is clear to me is that Murphy was compromised when Willock didn't chase down Toney into the box to create that extra defensive player. So as a defensive team, for me, Lascelles on 3 or 4 occasions let the team down badly. But I mean, obviously he scored a goal which obviously went in his favour, but defensively just wasn't good enough. I find Lascelles, in my opinion, a good old-fashioned centre forward. He's strong, he's aggressive, he's brave, he's good in the air with his head, and he gets the occasional goal. But far too many times you'll see him at Premier League level, he just lapses a little bit of concentration, which means he's a little bit out of position, and those sort of mistakes can prove costly, as they did against Brentford and a couple of times earlier on in the season where he gave away 2 needless penalties. So for me, Lascelles is a great leader, but a championship player. Then we had Willock, clearly a box-to-box player who just on that particular day was off the pace. He was dilly-dallying, his passes were misplaced, he was getting caught in possession, and he contributed to the defensive frailty of our team. Now I had Shaw. I was really looking forward to seeing Shaw. I do rate him quite highly, and I've been desperate to see him in the team. But on the day I thought he had a poor game against Brentford. Although none of his mistakes were critical, he did make a lot of stupid mistakes during that match, of clumsy challenges. And it's my belief that, you know, when he was substituted, I think it was because of the way he was playing and the mistakes he was making. Other players of note, but on the more positive side, I was really pleased with how John Joe Shelby applied himself. I've been a big critic of his recently, certainly for the last year or 2. He's just been half-hearted and just dragging his heels, and he's been really very poor. But today you could tell he was well up for it. He wasn't brilliant, but he was far better than he's normally been playing. And of course it was Joe Linton. For me, he had an outstanding game. That's the best I've ever seen him. I mean, he played well against Leeds, but against Brentford he was absolutely brilliant, and I just feel so gutted for him that he didn't score that goal at the end of the game where he got the ball in the box and cut inside. He was just going to hit the ball in the back of the net, and he fell out. I mean, it just summed him up. I felt so sorry for him, because he was by a mile our best player. I would make special note of Fraser as well, Ryan Fraser, who's been a bit indifferent for Newcastle, but when he come on against Brentford, he made 2 telling contributions. The first one being the ball he sprayed across for Saint-Maximin to score our 3rd goal, which is just sweet as a nut. But also before that, Brentford nearly went 4-2 ahead when a Brentford forward was breaking through into the box and just about to unleash a shot. And just from nowhere, Fraser come from behind and put a little toe in and just deflected the ball away, and it was just an excellent piece of defending. So yeah, I was really impressed with Fraser when he come on. The next thing I want to talk about is Saint-Maximin. So the game against Brentford for me was very typical of how he usually plays. He goes from really very poor, holding onto the ball far too long, getting dispossessed really easily, then falling down and claiming free kicks which don't exist. So he swings from that to contributing some moments of utter brilliance, and of course one of them being when he picked up the ball from Darlow's kick for the third goal, chested it down, laid it up to Fraser with a beautiful pass, and then of course slotted the ball in the back of the net. So he just swings from one extreme to the other. I recognise with Maximin when things come off and he beats his player and he gets his shot away or scores, it's an absolute joy to watch. He's brilliant. But if you put together a collage of every time he got the ball and put it into a separate video of all the times where he held onto the ball too long, didn't make the pass that he should have made, getting dispossessed, falling over, you'd watch that collage of little clips and you'd want rid of him. At times for me he's an absolute liability, and he pulls players out of position who are waiting for the ball, who've been making space. For me, Saint-Maximin he's like, we have a team of 10 players and then Saint-Maximin. I feel we've got the right player at the wrong time. For me personally, I think he would, if he was playing in a Man City team or a Chelsea team, he'd be world class. But for a team like us at the minute, who have a mix of Premier League and Championship players who are struggling in a relegation position, I think he's a luxury we can't afford at the minute. So given those circumstances and within that context, for me personally, I would happily get rid of Maximin and put a more solid and dependable player in his position. So let me know what you think. Do you think Maximin is more of an asset to the team and what he brings when things come off, or is he more of a hindrance? Let me know down in the comments below what you think. So next we have Eddie Howe, who is currently self-isolating, having contracted coronavirus. Now that's going to hit us hard, because up until and including next Sunday, he can't be with the team for training. And of course, yeah, he's going to be training via proxy with Jason Tyndall and the rest of the backroom staff, but that's not quite the same. He's not there, he's not getting hands-on, he's not looking at the players in depth who have come recently back from international duties, and I worry that might affect our preparations, certainly for the Arsenal game on Saturday. Also, he's only got Monday to prepare for the Norwich game, which is an absolutely crucial game to get 3 points. Next thing I want to quickly mention is just a few weeks ago I did a video about redevelopment in St James's Park, and it sparked a conversation about the future, and if the new owners invested in a new stadium, potential sites for that. So I just want to kind of dispel one or two myths about possible other locations. First of all is the arena land down by the quayside, because the arena is being moved to the Gateshead side, and it seems like at first glance an obvious place for a new stadium, which is an ideal location. Unfortunately, that land is being developed for a large housing project of about 1,000 homes, because Newcastle has, like everywhere else, a housing shortage. But also there's going to be a hotel built on that land, so unless somebody knows something different from the research that I've been doing, that land is already spoken for, and it's been in the early stages of being developed for those particular projects. The town moor is also a no-go area. It's protected land due to a piece of parliamentary legislation dating back to 1774 in terms of the grazing of the cows on the land. So also as well, because of climate change and the new eco movement, there are plans to plant thousands of trees in and around the area of the town moor. So the chances of a new stadium being built there in 4, 5, 6 years' time on the town moor are almost nil. Having said that, in 1997, I think it was, Sir John Hall had plans to build a super stadium on Nunsmoor next to the town moor, but there was protests and objections from local residents of such ferocity that Newcastle United pulled out of that particular plan to build a stadium on Nunsmoor. So if the new owners were to look at that area again, would probably have the same problems. Getting back to football, Gateshead Football Club have made it through to the second round of the FA Cup proper, and that was after beating Altrincham in a thrilling away match a few days ago. So the reason I want to bring this up is because it would be great if we can have Newcastle United supporters getting behind Gateshead and come to the match. I'm going to be there. I'm going to do a video log about the match against Charlton, which is on Friday evening, 7:45 kick-off against Charlton, who are sure to bring up 1,000 or so supporters, and it's going to be a cracking match. So let's get behind our local team for the FA Cup second round. So that's it for another video. I hope you've enjoyed it. We're also in the future for future weekly videos on a Monday. I might talk about other things that are happening in Tyneside. And if you like it, like I say, hit the subscribe button, give us a thumbs up, but don't forget to leave some comments on the sort of things that I've talked about in this video. So until next time, catch you later.